Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, or you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. Hello, everyone. This is the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, sponsored by Never Too Late Cafe. This is Laura Womack, your host. And I have a very special guest with me today, Jeff Evans. Hi, Jeff. Welcome.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me.
So you are from where I'm currently located in Ohio, in Southern Ohio. So were you born here?
Yes, I was. I was born at, I believe it was called the General Hospital. I don't think it's there anymore. It was
It's
up,
not.
I can't think of that part of town where you call it, up in, out toward the trail that
Yeah,
way.
Sayada Trail. Yep.
Side of trail. Yeah, it was out
Yep.
that way.
Yep. In fact, I think I was born there too.
Oh,
And
cool.
I think it's probably a parking lot or another business now. But anyway, and where have you relocated to?
I live in Southern California. I live in a place called Adelanto.
Oh, and how did that come about that you went from Southern Ohio to Southern California?
I didn't like the cold. I'm just kidding. I joined the Army in 1995, and
Mm-hmm.
I came out here with those guys. I was at a place the last 3 years after my training. I was at a place called Fort Irwin, and that's the National Training Center. So we
Mm-hmm.
were the bad guys. We were the player unit. Units come there to train, and that's what they do. They play against us. We were called the OP4, Opposition Force, and
Oh,
that's what we did. We train units all well 10 months out of the year. Two months out of the year, we just kind of got things operational. But the other 10 months, we were um, the player unit.
I know this doesn't air immediately, but as we're sitting here today talking, it is Veterans Day in 2022. So thank you for your service and what you did for our country and your training and such. And so I always say the year because, the internet is forever.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
So let's dive right in. You are an author, and your book that was recently published, released this last summer, Modern Gothic. Um, Tell us a little bit about a little synopsis of your book.
It's kind of a well. It's like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but all the stories do um, interconnect. They maybe a little bit subtly, but they do transition in. It's kind of one big story, but they're kind of set up as individualized. And there, I guess you would call it like horror, fantasy, science fiction type story, but there's more meaning to it than that. If you get into it, it's more of a take on society, like what things are going on right now. And it kind of parallels that, but it does it through the medium of I think is more entertaining of what people like to see. That's why I set it up that way. I mean, people when I was a school teacher, I try to look at what the kids were reading
Mhm.
and follow that. Like for example, as you well know, most popular thing out there with the kids is Harry Potter.
Mm, yep. Um, so it's multiple stories, four stories, five stories,
It's 5 stories.
and they somewhat connect or build on each other or something. And
You could say that, yeah.
mhm. So let's go back in time and tell your story from the beginning, where uh, how you got interested in it, um, when you decided to write, and just your whole process. Just tell us more about that.
Oh boy, you bit off more than you can chew because I'm a talker.
Oh,
Anybody knows me, so that's one thing. Yeah, he's a talker. But
I'm used to talkers, so go right ahead.
so I guess it's a lot of things like that you do throughout your life. And you kind of put that together. Like I
Hmm.
started off back as we call it back there, the holler. I grew up on the holler,
Hmm.
and so back in the late '70s, early '80s, we didn't have cable or internet or anything like that. So it started out off that you would sit around. A lot of times, we'd have a fire outside or something like that, and we'd tell stories and try to outdo each other, try to top each other with our stories and stuff like that. And I just got into storytelling probably before I could write. I could tell a story before I ever knew how to write one down. So then later, throughout life, like I said, you experience a lot of things, and how can I say this? I've always lived in my head, like whenever
Hmm.
things are the roughest in your life, that's where I retreat to. And
Hmm.
I'd be working like I don't know when I was a teenager or whatever. I'd be working fast food, and instead of having my mind on the dish tank, I'm making a story in my head. And then
Hmm.
the next thing you know, the 2 hours are gone, and you haven't really, everything's done, and you really haven't. You don't dread being there because I wasn't there. I was on a spaceship somewhere. So a friend of mine said, "Well, why don't you write some of this stuff down sometime?" And honestly, it hadn't occurred to me. I was just doing it for myself. And
Oh.
so, like I said, I was in the Army from 95 to 2000, and I got out and I taught for a while. And then I think it was about 2004, I started my first master degree. And that was almost all writing, you know? I mean, it was just papers. I think it was 2 papers a week, every week. And I was just
Hmm.
writing, 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 writing all the time. So then, like I said, I thought, well, other people were doing it too, like on Facebook and stuff like that. People like they weren't really doing it to get published, but they were just doing it for their own edification.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, I got a lot of stories and I've got a lot of things I'd like to, you know, um, see brought to fruition. I could probably, see what I could do with it. So I did that, and my son said, well, why don't you try to get some of this stuff published? And you never really think that it's like, who, me? Who am I to try to get something published?
Right.
Um, so I submitted it, and they said, yeah, let's go with this. And that's what I did. I finally took the plunge, and I said, yeah, let's get it out there and see what happens. So I did, and so far people seem to like it pretty well.
I have read it. And I found it really interesting. I had read a review before I got it of someone saying that they couldn't put it down once they started. And I found that to be the case too. Like
Wow.
I wanted to see how it was going to evolve and things like that. So, yep, it was really interesting. And I don't always get that opportunity when I talk to somebody um, on the podcast. Do I ever get to go through a lot of their information? So that was cool. And
Thank
so,
you. Thank you.
yeah. So, how did you find your publisher? What led you to one publisher over another one? Did you like go through and contact a bunch and then you settled
Yeah,
on one?
I did pretty much that. Yeah, I settled on one, and they gave me a pretty good deal with Page Publishing, which is a self-publisher. But I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the things that kind of sold me on them, they said I could keep my drawings in it, and
Oh,
so you notice the drawings, and also they
yes.
said, well, part of the deal was they would have done the cover design,
Mm-hmm.
But I like it the way it is. I like the plain wrapper. A lot of people think you have to have something snazzy on the front. I don't.
I have to recall what the front of it looked like now. That's funny that you would say that because, um, oh, I see, I see. Yep, yep, yep.
Well, you've heard the expression, don't hide a needle in a haystack, hide a needle with other needles.
Oh,
Well, if you look at them and all of them have, whatever, a picture of this, picture of that, which one stands out?
hmm
The one with no picture.
yeah. Um, I do want to ask you about your Facebook photo that is not you, but it's very eerie. What is that picture?
Oh, I used to have a program on my phone that my son downloaded because I don't know how to do that stuff. And I was just messing around with photos, and I made that. And as you said, it's eerie, and it seemed like it fit the bill to go with modern Gothic more than just a regular photo of me. Plus, now I'm old, so I just went with that. And it's again, it stands out. It's something
It
different.
definitely
So
does. Those eerie eyes. Now
no, I actually
everyone's
look
going to
like
have
that.
to look up Jeff Evans and look at his eerie eyes on his profile.
No, I actually
So,
look like that in real life. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
so how did you come up with the name?
Oh boy, that's kind of an homage to my mom. Um, as you know, everybody knows the famous painting American Gothic.
Mm.
Well, the only two kinds of books that she read were westerns and Gothics.
Oh.
So, in fact, the story, the one with the guy in the Old West,
Mm-hmm.
she pretty much gave me the building blocks for that one. That was one of the, like I said before, when we'd sit around telling stories, she had one that was similar to that. So that was kind of my homage to her. So I thought, well, Gothic, and it's an updated version of Gothic storytelling. So modern Gothic.
Mm, I see. Well, when you talk about sitting around a fire, I remember camping, and boy, that's really well known. If you go camping, or you just have anybody that come and sit around the fire, and someone's got a stick and they're poking the fire, and stories just happen, and
Yeah.
um, it's sometimes very bonding for people. Oh, scary stories.
Oh yeah.
I remember as a kid hearing some scary ones, and I was like, and now we have to go to the dark tent to sleep.
Yeah. I got a
So,
question for you real quick.
okay.
What did you think about the parallels from the first story to the last story? Did you catch that?
Oh, I'd have to go back. It was a couple of months ago when I read it.
Well, basically in the first story we talk about how in medieval times the royalty could they had rights that peasants didn't have, and
Mm-hmm.
they were able to get by with a lot of things that now we wouldn't put up with. But
Mm.
then in the very last story, it's the same thing. Only we put like rock stars and movie actors and people like that on a pedestal, you know, and make
Oh,
them modern day royalty.
to be honest, I don't know that I made that connection. Now I have to read it again.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I sometimes I can even, uh, watch a movie and then minutes later go, I couldn't tell you what I just watched. I can tell you how I felt from it. I'll give me um, an animal hurt or I can tell you if there was something not just scary, but suspense. Oh, it just puts my nerves on edge. so,
I understand.
so couldn't maybe tell you details, but I could tell you how I felt. So,
I
and
got you. Well, yeah.
now I got to go back to it. So you settled in California. You've been there ever since, and So you were talking about your drawings. So in the book, you have drawings. Is that just something that you've acquired through the years, or have you always been a drawer?
Oh, well, when I was a kid, when I was a young guy, I had a cyst on my kidney and was homeschooled for a while. And I was bedridden for, for a little while. And so the thing I got into was drawing.
Wow, I bet that was therapeutic.
It was, yeah. Luckily, they were able to remove it. I have a scar
Mm-hmm.
on my right side, about a six-inch scar where they went in and got it. Thank grace of God, they got it. But
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I they used to when I was sick, they would buy me like action figures,
Mm-hmm.
which actually, as you probably know, that action figures stem from the model, the artist model. That's how action figures came to be. The first action figure was the GI Joe, and that was modeled after the model. So that's how they came to be. So I started drawing. Well, ones I were into and still am were called Migos, Mego. They came out in the early mid 70s, and they
Mm-hmm.
had superheroes, monsters, and then like a popular TV show or movie like they had Starsky and Hutch, Waltons, they had Wizard of Oz, Planet of the Apes. So I
They
just
even have them?
yeah, so
Really?
yeah,
The Waltons?
they had if you look it up, there's a series of the Mego Waltons.
Well, I'm having all this homework to look up here.
Giving you your chores there.
So, okay, so you talked about you went with Page Publishing, and so you kind of settled on the cover. Did they help you with other parts of it? Do they do
Yeah,
other processes like, I don't know, formatting, editing?
yeah, they do the formatting, they do the editing, and then um, they pretty much spell out what they'll do. They do
Mm-hmm.
some marketing, but the marketing is that's what I'm doing myself right now, and they're not that's not really their forte. But yeah, they did an excellent job with the formatting and then the editing, and they walk you through it, and they send it to you and say, okay, this is what we came up with. Look it over. Do you agree with it? And then you look at it. Well, I want to keep this. I want to get rid of that, and so you're involved in the process. And they sent me
Mm-hmm.
one draft, and I didn't realize that stuff that I'd like written to myself was still in that manuscript. I thought I'd taken it out. They're like,
Oh,
"Are these author's notes?" And it's like, yeah,
oh.
because one of the things when you write, it's really hard to do. You can't like say minor characters. You can't remember their names. And I have a friend. Her name's Carol Campbell, and she writes, and she uses actual people that she knows. She uses their name in her books, which is a good technique. So that way you're not, you know, you'll come up and you'll like that mechanic's name. What was his name again? Oh, that was Brian. You have to go back and you have to look it up and everything. So I would put those on the page, little note, look up mechanic's name. And they caught that. Like, you don't want to keep this, do you? I'm like,
Oh.
no,
Well, did you find they wanted to take out or add something that was not your style or you wouldn't have done?
no, they just edited. They like just ways of
Oh,
saying
good.
things better. And as you know, it's book's got a little bit of a bite to it. It's probably, it probably wouldn't be PG rated if it was a movie, if it were a movie. And they really didn't, they didn't say, take these drawings out or anything. They just edited and said this would be a better way to say it. You want to go with that? I'm like, so I'd read it over and yeah, okay, I can see where that would be better.
You know, I know from myself when I've written something, I had a couple of times I've had things edited, and I was like, no, this word is sacred. I'm sorry, it can't be. It can't be. You know,
Exactly.
um, when I was in grad school, I don't even know what I was writing, but it was probably an article or something, and I remember someone trying to tell me that I needed to change one word. And I said, if you take that word and change it to what you want to, it changes the whole sentence meaning. I can't do that. It was like that
Exactly.
was my baby. And I'm sure your book is like your baby.
It is. You're exactly right. I've had stuff, oh, people that well, wouldn't it be better this or better that, and it's like, no, this is from the heart. This is the way I want to say it. This is what I want to say. If you
Mm,
if you mess around with it, then you start changing things. You take away the essence of it.
yep. Yep. So you wrote for your specific, what you wanted to say instead of just writing a book so that it would sell. Because there's a big difference. Some people
Well,
write
a
to
little bit of both,
sell.
but go ahead. Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit mercenary as far as that goes. I did do two things. One,
Okay.
okay, you're familiar with the concept of coffee table book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my book's like 96 pages. Most
Mm-hmm.
people read about 100 pages. Okay, 200 pages, 300 pages. That's kind of superfluous and it's kind of overkill.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took out a lot of things that didn't really weren't needed. That's why I used the short story format.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I kind of followed what was popular. If like you look at these books, like Lightning Thief or Harry Potter, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
or the Twilight series is really popular. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go with that genre, and then also kids like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid novels or stories, whatever you call them. They have
Mm-hmm.
drawings. Kids like drawings. When I say kids, I mean young people. Anybody younger than 40 is a kid to me.
I understand that well. Or I'll find myself saying someone, they're a little older, and I'm going, oh, they're my age. Well, I don't know how age creeps in, but with the topic, but like my mom said, you're young inside. So you don't think about that part.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So on this podcast, I always have a few questions that I ask everyone. And the first one is, what does the quote, bloom where you're planted, mean to you?
To me, and I'm sure you've had a variety of answers for this, but to
Oh.
me, it means give something back to the community. One of the things that I did or I try to do, the thing of it is, and you seem like a very humble person, and I try to be. When you try to market something that you've done like this,
Mm-hmm.
you come off as narcissistic. You know, it's like read my book. It's better than everything out there. Well, it's not, but um, yeah, that's what you're trying to do. But also, I'm not just trying to sell a book. What I try to do is to motivate people to be the best version of themselves. I mean, excuse me, if I can do this, you can do this. Or not just write a book, but what is it you really want to do that you keep putting off that well, the kids, I'm working two jobs. I got this, I got that. Just do it, you know,
Mm.
because 10 years will go by like that. And you'll say, I wish I'd done it. Hey, I got a friend right now. I'm fighting with him. He's a better writer than I am, and he won't try to get anything published. So I mean, it's like if you want to do it, do it.
I like that.
Thank you.
And that is the Never Too Late Cafe is actually how that came about. I was just like, there's been things I've been wanting to do, and it's never too late.
That's
So,
right.
so what sort of words of wisdom, guidance, whatever, would you give someone that has an interest in doing what you do or have done?
I would just to say to have like a backup plan, so that
Mm-hmm.
you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. You
Mm-hmm.
know, have an alternative plan so that something that you can do. Oh, like say you write a book, but it's not selling. Okay. You don't want to be totally reliant on that for your income. So
That's
you want to have, because it's not that your book's not going to sell. It's just that these things, they move in trends. They take time. It takes time to get your, for people to find out about it, that sort
mm-hmm,
of thing. So it may take you a little while, to get sales going and to get the wheels moving. So like I
mm-hmm.
said, always have something, in reserve.
So, what is next for Jeff Evans?
I got a lot of stuff going on.
Is
um,
writing another book a possibility?
oh, absolutely. But that's the thing. Been working on a book, reading a book on marketing books. And the guy, what he's talking about in this is like the best strategy for that is to hit them. Don't wait too long to get the next book out. And you want to get another book in that same genre, like R.L. Stein does, or like, you know, um, Stephen King or whomever. But the thing is, I also want to write. I have a book that's more or less it's a self-help book, and I want
Mm-hmm.
to get it. I want to get that out there too at some point. And it has to do with things that's not taught in school, and it has to do with cognitive thinking, figuring things out rather than just. I think a lot of school has to do with rote rehearsal, and I want to try to teach people how to get away from that.
I'm going to go back just a second when you said something about the having another book in your genre. That's probably to establish like he's this kind of writer and that kind of writer. And I think what I've noticed is that sometimes people get their reputation of something, and then when they're established, they kind of veer off into other avenues because they're already established. Is that what?
Exactly, that's what they're
Okay.
talking about. So that's what
Okay.
I also have a children's book that I want to get out there at some point, which also has to do with well, as you probably noticed on each of these stories, I try
Mm-hmm.
to give it a little snap, give it a twist ending.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do that with the children's book too.
Do you think you'll be illustrating that one as well?
I did. I already did that. Of course, Page Publishing. I spoke to them about it, and they have illustrators. But I want to do my own
Mm.
illustration on it because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said earlier, like you were saying about that one word that really defines what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I the drawings go with it. I mean, if that's part of how I want to tell the story.
Well, I'm trying to think of when I was years and years ago doing some private care with some kids, and there was that purple crayon. I can't even remember the whole name. I mean, some of the pages were just lines as this kid goes through his journey, and this line becomes rooms and this and that, and journey, his adventures, and very basic, black and white, but it lent itself to the story. So it was everything. If it had been something real
Exactly.
elaborate, it wouldn't have been as effective. So I like that.
Thank
So,
you.
and I did notice that you're on Facebook. And how else can someone find you?
Well, right now I'm in the process of getting a web page.
Mm-hmm.
Would try to do that myself, but I want it done right. So
Mm-hmm.
got somebody else working on that. It's in the process. So right now, if you want to reach me, like you said, my profile is very distinctive. And is I can't remember. Is it does it say Jeff Evans and then parentheses Jeffrey Evans author?
I'd have to, I can't remember. I know that's one of you in your profile where they talk about like other names that you go by. And it does have that under there, under your about, I think.
Right. You're
So,
the one that suggested to me to put to add Arthur to that. You remember?
oh, I did.
Yeah, you did. When we were texting, you said I should add that to my profile on Facebook. So I put I think it says Jeff Evans, so easy enough to find.
Well, Good luck with your current book and your future book and your webpage. And I thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. And I'm sure that we will be talking again at a time when you have a new release. This is the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, sponsored by Never Too Late Cafe. And thank you, Jeff Evans, for being a guest today.
Well, thank you, ma'am, for having me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed talking to you.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.